Originally from Hong Kong, born and raised, but I lived in the US for 20 years. Definitely, how many of you, before we start, are actually entrepreneur, just started a business looking to grow your market or raising money? All right. And the rest of you are investment. Nobody wants to talk about that. So today, actually, I don't want to talk too much about Dolphin, but really about like mindshare, some of the learning that we have done. Just more like a quick background for Dolphin. We started about 3 years ago. When we first started is when our founders picked up the first Android phone. Just couldn't believe how bad the experience for the default browser was. We wasn't trying to build a big company. We weren't like looking for funding. It was really because they're all geeks, engineers, and just want to build something that we really want to use for ourselves. But long story short, we built it, picked the name Dolphin, because we thought dolphins swim really fast. Of course, you want your product to perform really fast. And we picked Dolphin because Dolphin is really smart. It learned the way you browse, so we have a lot of really fun features. And like even till today, we have about 200 emails that we get per day from our user telling us you need to fix this, change that. We have like a whole army of people now, just kind of responding to all these emails. But when the company first started 3 years ago, it was really, I want to say like 5 people or 7 people. All those guys actually know each other for a long time through college. Very, very good team. But they're like before I exist, I probably joined maybe a year or 9 months after. But even before I ever exist, the product itself really grew and grew and grew and grew on its own because we're really solving a real need. So I think today I'm going to talk about lean marketing, but I don't think any of these marketing really, honestly, nobody gives a shit if your products suck. So I really want to emphasize that no marketing can help you if you're not really solving a real problem. So, but let's get that out of the way. For us, I think we were very, very lucky in many ways that we started because we're solving a real need. And also we're really early. So we definitely have some unfair advantage. So I don't want to completely ignore that. But for today, it's more or less sharing some of the real story. Of course, just more for background. So for us, we, about 6 months later, we got to our first million install. And then another year and a half, we raised our Series A. So our investors are Sequoia, Matrix Partners, and Qualcomm. These are our investors. And now, we're at 80 million. But at least for the first 6 months, because a lot of you guys are first started, we've gone through the same thing that you're about or going through. So I want to actually share some of those ideas, how we sort of really bootstrapped it to really get to the point where we are now. So anyway, let me... Okay, so before... Actually, I just said something completely different. I think marketing is not everything. Product is everything. Product is everything. If you have no good product, marketing doesn't really matter. But for this particular talk, of course, marketing is key. So first off, I want to sort of set stage. What is marketing? Because I think that for a lot of people who are really into product, sometimes if you think marketing is advertising, I don't think that is the case. It's really only part of it. And this particular sort of little comment comes from a guy that wrote a brand gap called Martin Meyer. And he's, in the old days when, radio or TV first started, you basically pay for an ad. And just like the guy trying to date that girl and say, I'm a great lover. And then you get a little bit more money and you keep buying advertising and say, I'm a great lover, I'm a great lover, I'm a great lover. But it's all one-way street. And then you get to, for a long time, when I'm in like bigger company, I never understand what PR is all about. But that's why social media is so important, is your friend telling the girl and say, trust me, he's a great lover. You tend to trust your friend more than you trust the guy who advertises. And then the fourth thing is branding. When you really do all these things right, partner marketing, PR, events, very different things, you get to the point that your customer come and tell you, and say, hey, I heard of your product before, it's so good that I wanted to know more. That's branding. And I think that, when you do hire a business person, I think many of us, when you first build a product, you have a great product, you're like, oh, I just want to hire a person to do marketing. That's not really the case. You really have to understand what are all these different buckets? What does it mean for you? And I think that different stage when you, of course, like our experience is really specific on mobile, Android and iOS. But I think this particular concept applies no matter what you do. But of course, like, I have a couple of colleagues here, the two guys wearing the Dolphin shirt, Chaodong, who's like from a product team, and then Shambin, who's really experienced with the retail channel. These guys can tell you all the war stories that we have gone through from a mobile point of view. But I think a lot of these basic concepts will apply no matter what you do. So, of course, the ugly PowerPoint is I do this. But I sort of break it down into what are some of the things that you should think about. At least now, we have the luxury to have individual employee, like part of the team that actually focus on each of these things. But at the beginning, like I pretty much do everything, or a couple of teammates basically have to do all of these at the same time. But kind of go back to sort of lean, the whole concept of lean startup is how do we actually shorten all of these and be able to prove out whatever your hypothesis in a really, really short time. But at the same time, there's different mindset. We can do research all day, but to break it down is there's PR, social media, SEO website, partner marketing. When I say partner marketing, I'll tell you a story too. We do a lot of partner marketing with like Evernote, Dropbox, and all these different other mobile developers. Branding, how do you actually get all your message to be consistent across the board? Or event marketing, there's definitely, today we're so lucky to have Farina and the Colonas team to do a lot of work for us, and we just sort of show up and then say, hey, buy food and all that, but usually you're not that lucky. How do you actually do all that? So all of these little things, I think you don't actually need a lot of money to do it, but you do definitely need to have really, really specific goal and result, every single thing that you do, then you can prove it out if it's something that you want to do more or not. So I want to actually quickly, I sort of said that already before this particular PowerPoint was up. Who is Dolphin? I think I actually already told you most of these stories. We started 3 years ago, 6 months to get to the first million. A lot of these gesture or sonar, all these voice navigation is all through from the user. And then 10 million, 15 million, 80 million. Anyway, we talked about that already. But for us, everything is about mobile. So as I said, definitely happy to chat. Before Dolphin, I actually did 10 years mostly in enterprise software. So I'm actually more enterprise, B2B person than mobile. But at least the good thing is, it doesn't really matter what you did before. If you wanted to get into mobile and new technology, everybody can. It's still a very, very new industry. So there's a lot of things that's changing every month. Not even every month, every day. So I highly encourage you guys look into it. And especially, I think, for us, we've only been spending now 4 days in Jakarta. For sure, every single person have at least, if not one phone, sometimes two. So this particular country is so mobile that a lot of people, why I'm excited about what we're doing is that you may not have the money to afford a laptop. It doesn't matter, even now, it's too expensive. But for once, you can buy, I don't know, like 200,000 rupiah, is that right? Yeah, like $20 US. Now you can have an Android phone and have access to internet, just like you and I have, even with no money. That's exciting. That's something that I think that why all of us should think about mobile. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Anyway, Dolphin, it's all about global, looking at HTML5 across device. But now we get tons of press. But what I really want to talk about today is all about some of the metrics and things that's actionable for you guys to think about that you can apply to your own startup. Just quickly on this, I think the different case study that I'm going to talk about after this is all around this whole circle of things. So doesn't really matter that you are doing a web campaign or social media campaign on Facebook or buying mobile advertising through the ad network. Every single little thing that you do, pretty much most of the thing online or on mobile, you can get it done in a couple of days. Very, very easy to prove it out with a very small budget. As little as, if you want to buy a Facebook ad, you pay $100, you can pretty much test, whatever your assumption, is it right or wrong? But the most important thing, I think sometimes, when you first get your first angel funding, you have a little bit of money, or you first hire a marketing person, the first thing you want to do is just go do something. I think that, sure, of course, you want to do something so that you can prove out certain things. But just like when we're in school, even when you write a white paper, you want to have some sort of assumption, some educated guess, that you want to prove out specific things. Even as little things as, okay, I'm going to, let's say tonight, just a little test. For you guys to come here, I assume that because you either want to learn what's going on from Farina, from Lean Startup, or I think every single person should at least walk away from this room with at least 3 business cards or 3 contacts. Doesn't have to be business card. Just add them on Facebook, whatever. Because from these contacts means that there's another person that you can learn from. Somebody next to you right now knows something that you don't. You should reach out, and that will be at least something that you gain just for coming to the event. I think a lot of times it's, at least for me, coming from San Francisco, every single day there's 5 events. And I have a lot of friends who come and visit and basically say, you don't even have to pay for food in San Francisco. And that is true, because you go to all these events, everything is pretty much covered. You usually have pizza and burger or whatever. But the point is not that. The point is, when you come to an event like this, you should have a goal, right? So you should have very particular, of course, know your audience. I actually have another company that I used to run. It's all about event and media. And of course, I go to a lot of events. But now I actually go less and less because, at least for Dolphin, our target audience, not because that you guys are all really cool people, but is mainly Android users. That's for us. So when we actually go and spend time in any of these events, it's because it's Android related. Otherwise, it's not good use of your time and energy. It's not even because of money, it's because of your time is valuable as a founder. So think about who your target audience is. And then let's say for this event, right, there should be specific goal or metrics. So let's say I'm gonna throw in $100 a Facebook ad. At a minimum, usually for me, if you have 3 to 4% conversion, that's actually pretty good. That's in my head, right? So I'm like, okay, if I spend $100, then I'm gonna get 5 leads. Then, okay, what do I want them to do? So a lot of times what people are missing, and this is an art, is your call to action. Because, okay, great, you click on my ad on Facebook, but I don't know what I should do. I was chatting with, I don't want to pick on you guys, I'm not going to name names. I was looking at your mobile app earlier today, and I was like, I click on, I like this, but nothing happened. I want to do something. You get this, I guess basically in the US, there's a what do you call it, Jenny Craig. It's for losing weight, so this is one of the photos. But how do you actually get from not so lean to leaner? Now I'm just going to tell you guys stories. This is our founder, originally from China, but started a company in the US, and now we have offices in Beijing and in Tokyo. So for us, this is one of the events we went to. It was just me and him. And it's all about doing your homework. That's why I was saying always, you take more time to plan than actually doing it. So every single event you go to, usually, although if you don't do homework, there's no way for you to know, it's usually, at least a popular event, I'm sure, so even though this is only the second time for Lean Startup, there's already tons of people. And more there will be press, or more and more there will be media. You never know who sits right next to you. So for this particular event, it was actually in Berlin, we went to, and I spotted I'm not going to go into detail how I spotted it, but I found a Wired reporter. And I know that he's going to be in that event.
And so for us, and usually it's always good when you go to an event is to do a tag team, because you never know. If it's just one person, it's very hard. That's why you should go talk to these guys. And so it's just 3 of us, right? The 2 of you, usually your co-founder or yourself, you should go and talk to as many people as possible. And actually, don't ever try to sell a journalist, because it doesn't work. Journalists, their job is to find cool stories, very cool stories. And for us, another thing that at least we try as much as we can, our story, no matter who is in the company, is exactly the same. It needs to be consistent, and we're super passionate about it. Of course, our story is the same. But for us, I was sitting next to the reporter, so I already talked to them about, yeah, why we're here, we're so passionate about this. I was showing all these things. And then Yeung was also speaking on stage. So the story, so the journalist for himself, he realized, oh, this is such a cool story, I need to discover, I need to write about it. But it wasn't like us hiring, of course now we have an agency in PR and all that, but at the beginning, when we have no one, we basically kind of spot. And by the way, also, just a really small trick, if you're a brand new startup, what you need to do is to figure out who's your competitors and who's your potential partners. Who exactly, let's say at least for us at the beginning, it's all about TechCrunch. We want TechCrunch to write about us. But TechCrunch don't care. But they may care if they already have written about something that is on your topic, on your competitors, on your industry. Just because I know one reporter doesn't mean that I can help you. But you really need to know, like, who's the influencers in particular industry that you're working on. Not just over general startup, but let's say if I care about food, who else actually have wrote about food spotting or Open Table or Yelp? This is for the US. But another thing I think from a PR angle, I think is interesting for us, I never really realized that until now I'm focusing on international, is that the US, not every single journal, but a couple of media really impact the world. So if you get coverage for a couple of media, it actually will automatically get translated to a lot of different countries. Sometimes in country I don't even know. I was in Russia last week, and there's all these things in Russian. I have no idea what they're talking about. But in order to sort of establish, if you have the intention to grow a global brand, it is actually your job to figure it out, like what sort of media matter to your brand, and figure that one out. And you don't actually need to spend a lot of money, you just need to be aware. The second, definitely also really, really lean is, I don't know if you've heard of this, this is a food truck in LA. It's called Kogi Barbecue. So they are the first food trucks in LA, started to use Twitter to basically tell people, this is a special for the day. This is a special bulgogi barbecue for the day. This is where we're going to park. We're going to park in La Cienega and I don't know where, West Hollywood somewhere. And this is where we're going to be. You should show up, and this is special. And then only 200 order only. They at the beginning, so now they have about 100,000 following. Every day they're like line half a mile just to wanting to buy their taco, their Korean taco. That's what they sell. But these guys have no money. But what they did with Twitter, they did something really unique, is they even start taking order through Twitter. People would tweet it, and they say, hey, I want an order of this. And then when they show up, they can just pick it up. Now, especially in San Francisco, there's a lot more food trucks following what they're doing. But they were the first one, and they get a lot of people like start following them because they were curious. Oh, what kind of special do they have? Where are they parking today? So the lesson learned for this is not even a startup. This is a very simple food truck. They just want to sell a physical goods, but they have used social media very, very intelligently to communicate, setting expectation. Every day you're going to get some tweet from us. Every day there's going to be some sort of special, and plus we will respond to you if you want to actually buy anything from us. So they're taking order. They turn Twitter into an ordering system. So it's definitely something interesting to think about. If you are in e-commerce, or if you are food, or if you are certain things that is like physically consumed, that I'm hungry, I want to eat something now. It's not like, oh, I'm going to buy a piece of clothing. I expect that it's going to take me a week. It's a different sort of style of consumption. Digital good, usually, of course, it's just immediate. You get it from the App Store. But if it's something like this, maybe you can use a different strategy. And this actually has nothing to do with money, but have everything to do with just being creative of an existing model. By the way, I think if you guys, I don't know if there's an equivalent version of that in Indonesia, but there is a really good site called Quantcast, QUANCAST.com. If you take on any site, at least most of you, just take Facebook or Twitter, you plug it in and it will actually give you a breakdown by gender, age groups, and I think also like by breakdown by country. So you can tell, but why do I say that? Because sometimes maybe Twitter is the wrong place for you to go if you're targeting, age from 40 to 60, right? Because they don't use Twitter. Or if you're going after the younger teenager, maybe is, I don't know, maybe it's Kaskus before Facebook. Or now more and more people use Path instead of Facebook. So some of these little things, if you don't do your research, you wouldn't know. But I think that like just thinking through this can help you to decide which platform will be the right one for you to spend more time with. All right, what is this? Oh yeah, so I took a screenshot for one of our email marketing campaign. We certainly do, at the beginning, we did spend a little bit of money, but what we did, it's not rocket science, right? Sometimes you want to get your user to follow you on Facebook or follow you on Twitter if you want them to do that, you want to give them some bait, right? You want to give them some prize. So for our iPhone launch, we actually did a campaign. This is sort of the actual email copy that's really, really simple. And we raffle off an iPhone. And the way that we raffle off the iPhone was we basically say to our user, look, we are celebrating our iPhone launch. We want you to win a free iPhone. And there's only, I think we gave out maybe 2 or 3, not that many. And of course, the iPhone is expensive, so it costs a little bit of money. But what we wanted them to do was, in order to enter this raffle, you have to click to tweet. So it's actually a website, literally called Click to Tweet. You can write the tweet exactly how you want it to be. They click it, they will tweet it, and then the way that we count and so randomly sort of pick is you can only enter when you tweet this. So we tweet it out, they click on it, they tweet exactly the way that we want them to tweet. And the iPhone is just enough, expensive enough, so that people are actually willing to do the work. If I'm just giving out a sticker, too cheap, people don't want to do that, right? But again, it has to be relevant with your product, right? iPhone is attractive, but if you're not in mobile, you raffle an iPhone, that's sort of weird. Let's say if you're working on, I keep thinking about food because I'm really hungry. Let's say if you're a food-related startup, maybe raffle off a dinner. That's relevant. I think it really depends on what you're doing, right? Or I was talking to another lady, she was working on HR-related services. Maybe she raffle off like free HR service for an entire company for a month. Who knows, like it just has to be just enough of a value so that your user are willing to spread virally on your behalf. So for us, so for Dolphin iPhone launch, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago. So with that one campaign, we did 10,000 tweets in 2 days. And then it also helped us to increase our following in a very, very short time. All these, we did it in-house. Like, it's not that we found somebody, but I do find that you do need a very good designer. Because if your image or your landing page that explain the rules are very confusing, people don't know what to do. Again, it's that call to action. I don't have enough space for this, but we have like a gigantic button on this email. Just click here to tweet. There's nothing else. There's no confusion whatsoever. It's just very extreme call to action. Make it very, very simple, then you can enter. What else? So now we talk about
events. This is, I like talking about events because I did probably like 500 events whatsoever. Enough of events. But so I take photos of this because I want to point out how cheap it could be to do an event like this. So we have a tablecloth. I actually have that tablecloth in my bag, but I didn't take it out just because, in respect for the host. But this, I mean, even that in the US is expensive. It's like a couple $100 to get this thing to print, but you can get it much cheaper. So, but why is it important? Because you can spot this from really, really far away. It's like bright green dolphin, yay, you know wherever you go. And then, of course, all of our team always wear a bright green. This actually comes from Guy Kawasaki. I don't know if you guys know Guy Kawasaki. He's really, really big on company swag. Means like sticker, t-shirt, cloth, like every single little thing. See, this, all these little things, everything is green because this is our brand. We want people to feel the same way no matter where they go. Having said that, you guys haven't noticed, now our green have evolved a little bit into a darker green. So we're also evolving. So last year is the brighter green and now it's the darker green. But even like that, so that's another trick that we did. More or less, it's also for spreading the idea. When we first did that logo, even this one or that one, I'm sure there's an Indonesian version of it. There's a site called 99 Design. So you basically put out a lump sum, and then at least we got like 300 or 400 of entry of our Dolphin logo of this, and then same thing for that. So first off, the designer all have to learn about who you are. So it's another way for us to kind of evangelize the designer community so they know about us. But also, it's good because you crowdsource the idea, and plus it's cheap. Because then you get many, many different ideas. But for us, at least I like to do it once every year, every 2 years, so you can kind of more refresh newer brand. And that one is particularly sort of like the Coca-Cola logo. And surprisingly, we actually have 3 or 4 different T-shirts, and we asked our user to vote too, and they picked that one. So I originally liked another cuter one, but they didn't like that. So yeah, like all of these is, I think if you're doing it in Indonesia, or even you do it in the US, you don't really have to spend more than 300-400 US. I don't know, 300,000 rupee? No. Anyway, no, 3 million, right? To prepare it. But this you can reuse many different times for like 2 years. So it's a really good investment if you want to think about that. I want to give you guys another example. This is a friend of mine. Honestly, I have seen these stickers everywhere. In New York, in LA, and we went on Geeks on the Plane, I think last year. We were in even Jerusalem. He was like putting the sticker everywhere. But this is sort of his branding, right? So this is in LA and there's like just 3. But his idea is basically sticking the sticker. It's also very cheap, like to put, and it's like everywhere. So that people sort of like, what is it? If we have a lot of time tomorrow, we don't really have a free day, but if we have a free day tomorrow, we'll be walking to Jakarta and put this sticker everywhere. You will know where this idea come from. But I swear to God, like people see this everywhere and they start to get curious. What is it? And nowadays, most of the people have access to the internet on their phone, right? If they think this is kind of funny, they take pictures, help you spread virally, and very low cost. And then at least they will go online and say, hey, I wonder what this is. And this Jazz is actually in branding as well, so he's doing it. He's crazy. All right. Couple other things is partner marketing. So I think that again, usually the way that we like to do it is if because now like we are 80 million, but let's say at the beginning we only have 1 million, 500,000. Let's say even only 100,000 when you first started. I think that every single developer in the startup community in general like to support each other. And
it's always good to know who your potential partners are. Of course, let's say when we first started, yeah, a lot of developers don't want to talk to us because we're like, who the hell are you? They don't know who we are and they don't want to partner with us. But at the beginning, when you first started, sort of the small guys like to partner with the small guys, and then the big guys, it takes more time. But usually, I think as a founder, especially people who are sitting here, it's so much easier because you're passionate about what you're doing. You talk to another founder, they know, they've gone through the same thing. And it's a lot easier to do this sort of partnership. But at the end of the day, I think successful partnership should be product driven. Because I think it's cool to write a blog post or do some sort of social media. It's nice, but it doesn't really matter to a user and it doesn't matter to their users. So it doesn't really make as much sense. But when you actually pick let's say, I'm going to use food again, just because I'm very hungry. So let's say if you're a food review site, yes, it does make sense to talk to a booking or like a restaurant booking system. It makes sense. It probably will make some sense also if you, at least, I went to this one, I was in Austin a long time ago. We're trying to get to this place and it's very difficult to get a taxi. So before that, they actually provide us Uber. Like taxi service. So you basically get the whole food chain to be taken care of. So think about how you can actually think about vertically or horizontally that you can actually add value to your customer. So for us, a lot of Evernote users were looking for a way that they can, on mobile, when they're searching for something, that they see something, they directly save it on Evernote. It's just a really simple use case. Nobody else had done it. So we actually sort of read it on our blog, some of the forum, and we basically approached them and say, hey, let's build this together. Let's integrate this. So I don't think we actually approached Engadget to write about it. But they decided to write about it because it's meaningful for both of our users. So people like to write about it. I think this sort of partnership is the best kind of partnership, which is product driven. So that's the end of my talk. Hopefully give you enough story examples. We will stick around till whenever Farina kicks us out. So now I'm going to pass the mic back to Farina.
So I'll probably, there are some questions from the audience. So let's open the floor for a couple of questions before we move on to lightning talk. If anybody has questions for Edith. Thank you so much. Please give a round of applause to Edith, by the way. Ada yang mau bertanya? Question? Yeah.
Hi, that's great talk. My name is Nikki. How do you plan to monetize your users?
For us?
Yes.
We have, depends on which part of the world that we go to, we have different kind of partners we partner with, but in general, for pretty much all the browser search is one way. Driving install for other developer is another way. And also, for us now, it's sort of new for us, but enterprise. Because especially in US, now more and more people actually are browsing intranet through your mobile phone. So now we have an enterprise version of Dolphin as well.
Great. Any other question? No?
No question.
No question at all. I think you're now free to eat. Thank you, Edith. Thank you so much. All right. So, just so that you guys know, we do have food and drinks in the back, but we still have 3 lightning talks. Lightning talks is basically a 5-minute presentation done by people in our community who are gracious enough to